Part 2. The depths of the abyss, time and ooze became a different entity for Job. Days no longer flowed. They dragged, each hour heavy as a millstone, each night a dark tomb where the ghosts of his family danced in his dreams. He sat in the ashes of what had been his life, not the literal ashes of his home. For it still stood, empty and echoing silence, but the symbolic ashes of everything he had built. 3 friends, hearing of all the calamities that had come upon him, traveled from their own lands. Eliphaz of Teman, Bildad of Shua, and Zophar of Namath. They arranged to meet together to go and sympathize with him and comfort him. When they saw him from a distance, they could hardly recognize him. The transformation was so complete, so visceral, that they stopped at a distance, unable to approach immediately. The man they knew, robust, erect, with eyes that smiled before his lips, was unrecognizable. His skin, once tanned by the healthy sun of fieldwork, now had a sickly pallor. His body, once strong as the oaks of Bashan, was shrunken, bent under an invisible weight. And all over his skin, from the soles of his feet to the crown of his head, festering sores grew, exuding a sweet, nauseating odor. With a piece of broken pottery he had found in the ruins of a barn, Job scraped his wounds as he sat among the ashes. His movements mechanical, repetitive, as if by cleansing the body he could cleanse the soul. For 7 days and 7 nights, the 3 friends sat with him in silence. No words seemed adequate. No comfort seemed possible. Job's pain was an unexplored continent, a territory of suffering where common language failed. They were simply present, their silhouettes forming an incomplete circle around the man in ashes. On the 7th day, as the sun began to tinge the horizon a red that resembled blood, Job broke the silence. His words were not the words of gratitude his friends might have expected, nor of serene acceptance. They were a primordial groan, a lament rising from the depths of his wounded humanity. May the day of my birth perish, and the night that said, a boy is conceived. His voice was rough from disuse and pain. May that day turn to darkness. May God above not care about it. May no light shine on it. Eliphaz, the eldest, the wisest in years, furrowed his brow. Bildad looked at the ground, uncomfortable. Woe, fur pressed his lips together. Job continued, his voice gaining intensity. Why did I not perish at birth and die as I came from the womb? Why were there knees to receive me and breasts that I might be nursed? For now I would be lying down in peace. I would be asleep and at rest with kings and rulers of the earth. His lament continued, a torrent of words that swept away the 7 days of silence. He spoke of the darkness he now preferred, of the grave that seemed more inviting than life, of the rest the dead enjoy while the living suffer. When he finally fell silent, exhausted, the first stars were appearing in the sky, silent witnesses to his pain. Then Eliphaz spoke. His voice was calm, measured, weighted with the wisdom of years. If someone ventures a word with you, will you be impatient? But who can keep from speaking? He paused, choosing his words carefully. Think how you have instructed many, how you have strengthened feeble hands. Your words have supported those who stumbled, who have strengthened faltering knees. His approach was gentle at first, acknowledging Job's past integrity. But then came the core of his argument, the relentless logic that would characterize all the friends' speeches. But now, trouble comes to you, and you are discouraged. It strikes you, and you are dismayed. Should not your piety be your confidence and your blameless ways your hope? Eliphaz presented his view of the moral universe, cause and effect, sowing and reaping. Consider now. Who, being innocent, has ever perished? Where were the upright ever destroyed, as I have observed? Those who plow evil, and those who sow trouble reap it. His logic was irrefutable within its own framework. God is just. Suffering is punishment. Therefore, Job must have sinned. The equation was mathematical in its precision, but it failed to capture the complexity of the human heart and the mysteries of the divine ways. Job replied not with defense, but with deepening. His pain was not just about suffering, but about God's silence. If only my anguish could be weighed and all my misery be placed on the scales, it would surely outweigh the sand of the seas. No wonder my words have been impetuous. He did not deny the possibility of sin. What is mankind that you make so much of them, that you give them so much attention? But he questioned the proportion. His pain seemed greater than any possible guilt. And then, amid the despair, came one of the most paradoxical declarations of faith of all time. Though he slay me, yet will I hope in him. Bildad was next. Less philosophical than Eliphaz, more direct. Does God pervert justice? Does the Almighty pervert what is right? For him, the answer was simple. Job's children sinned. Job must examine himself. Surely God does not reject one who is blameless or strength in the hands of evildoers. Zophar, the youngest and most impetuous, was the most brutal. Are all these words to go unanswered? Is this talker to be vindicated? His accusation was straightforward. Job was suffering less than he deserved. Yet if you devote your heart to him and stretch out your hands to him, and then free of fault, you will lift up your face. The cycle of speeches continued: accusation, defense, questioning. Job did not bend to the simplistic logic. Instead, he plunged deeper into the mystery. Indeed, I know that this is true. But how can mere mortals prove their innocence before God? He recognized divine transcendence, the infinite distance between creator and creature. If I wanted to argue with him, I could not answer him one time out of 1,000. His wisdom is profound. His power is vast. Who has resisted him and come out unscathed? His suffering became a crucible where superficial faith evaporated, leaving only the indestructible core of a relationship that did not depend on understanding. Job did not claim perfect innocence. Even if I washed myself with soap and my hands with cleansing powder, it would plunge me into a slime pit so that even my clothes would detest me. But he questioned the simplistic logic of suffering as immediate retribution. Amid the debates, a fourth man had arrived silently. Elihu, son of Barachel the Busite, of the family of Ram. Younger than the others, he had remained silent out of respect for their age. But as he listened, his indignation grew. He saw the flaw in both the friends' arguments and in Job's approach. Finally, unable to contain himself any longer, he exploded. I am full of words, and the spirit within me compels me. Inside, I am like bottled up wine, like new wineskins ready to burst. Elihu brought a new perspective. A middle ground between the extreme positions. Suffering is discipline, not punishment. God speaking through pain. For God does speak now one way, now another, though no one perceives it. In a dream, in a vision of the night, when deep sleep falls on people as they slumber in their beds, his approach was more sophisticated, suffering as divine pedagogy, a call to repentance and growth. God is mighty, but despises no one. He is mighty and firm in his purpose. He defended God's justice without denying Job's relative innocence, suggesting that perhaps the issue wasn't guilt, but something deeper. But even Elihu, with his youthful eloquence and fresh perspectives, did not have the complete answer. His words were more compassionate, less accusatory, but they were still human words trying to decipher the indecipherable. As the debates dragged on, Job sometimes seemed to reach flashes of profound understanding. At one point, he made a declaration that would echo through the millennia, an affirmation of faith that transcended his immediate suffering. I know that my Redeemer lives, and that in the end, he will stand on the earth. And after my skin has been destroyed, yet in my flesh, I will see God. I myself will see him with my own eyes, and not another. Here was something extraordinary. Amid the sores, the losses, the fruitless debates, Job glimpsed an eschatological hope. Not the immediate restoration of his wealth, but a final encounter with God that would justify everything. The friends were left speechless before this declaration. How to respond to a man covered in sores, sitting in ashes, speaking of seeing God in his flesh? Their systematic theologies, their formulas of retribution, their well-intentioned explanations all seemed small before this vision. The day was ending once again. Shadows lengthened over the land of Uz. The four debaters were exhausted, their words spent. Job remained silent now, his eyes fixed on something beyond the visible horizon. The piece of pottery had fallen from his hands, forgotten. The wounds on his body throbbed, but a deeper wound, the wound of wire, remained open. It was then that the air changed, not gradually, but abruptly, as if the very atmosphere had been replaced. A wind began to blow. Not the gentle breeze that refreshes a weary face, but a whirlwind that stirred dust and ashes, forming a rotating column that approached the place where they sat. Eliphaz stood up, alarmed. Bildad stepped back. Zophar tried to speak, but the words died on his lips. Elihu stood still, his eyes wide. Job slowly raised his head, his eyes meeting the approaching storm. From the depths of the whirlwind, a voice spoke. It was not the voice of Eliphaz, with his careful wisdom, nor of Bildad with his direct logic, nor of Zophar with his honest brutality, nor of Elihu with his youthful fervor. It was a voice that made the earth tremble beneath their feet, a voice echoing with the authority of creation itself. Who is this that darkens my counsel with words without knowledge? The question was not addressed to Job alone, but to all of them. To all who had tried to explain, justify, rationalize the suffering. To all who thought they could decipher the ways of the Most High with human logic, God was about to speak, and his words would not be explanations, but revelations. They would not be answers to questions, but questions that would undo all human answers. The true dialogue was about to begin. End of part 2. Thank you for getting this far. Subscribe to the channel and receive more videos like this.